LG bounced back from the ambitious, misguided G5 pretty well, but its more recent smartphones have still left me wanting. I mean, the G6 and the V20 were nice enough, but they never really felt like serious competition to the fancy flagships of the world. Well, that might change soon. LG recently announced the new V30, but I've been testing a non-final model for close to a week now. I'm trying to be a little cautious with my optimism, but the V30 feels like the phone LG needed to make for a very long time. Let's start with the looks, because the V30 looks nothing like the V series phones that came before it. I mean, for one, it's just beautiful if you're into that minimalist look. Unlike the more rugged-looking V10 and V20, the V30 is curved on both sides with a sturdy metal frame sandwiched between panels of Gorilla Glass 5. Unfortunately, the screen's glass isn't impervious to damage. I've already managed to put an annoying nick on it, and I just can't unsee it. As such, I wouldn't expect the V30 to take a drop as well as the all-metal V20, but I have yet to fling it across the office to check. Still, this thing packs IP68 water and dust resistance, so you should be just fine if you get pushed into a pool with one in your pocket. Oh, and another thing, there's only one screen here, which is a surprisingly nice 6-inch OLED panel that runs at 2880 by 1440. The viewing angles are great and so are the colors. They're vivid but not overdone. More importantly, the V30 screen stretches almost completely across the phone's face. LG could not have squeezed in a second display here, even if it wanted to. Anyway, having just one display means LG can make the V30 smaller and more comfortable to hold. In fact, just about everyone I've let hold the phone remarked about how light it is and they're right. The V30 feels like it's barely there sometimes. Beyond that, you've got a USB port on the bottom for charging, a headphone jack up top, and the trusty fingerprint sensor / home button combo on the back, just below LG's updated dual camera. We'll dig into that more in a second, but for now, just know that this might be one of the prettiest phones LG has ever made. The stuff inside is no slouch either. The V30 uses a very familiar combination. We're looking at a Qualcomm Snapdragon 835 paired with 4 GB of RAM, just like most other flagship phones this year. Just like those other phones, the V30 runs incredibly fast. I mean, did you expect anything else? Part of the V30's excellent performance is thanks to LG's approach to software. See, the V30 runs a lightly customized version of Android 7.1.2, and if you've picked up an LG phone within the last 2 years, you know exactly what to expect. Maybe the biggest addition to the mix is a floating bar that lives on the side of the screen. Think of that as a way to replicate that classic second screen in software. It offers customizable shortcuts to apps and tasks like shooting selfies, but since you have to touch the screen to start working with this stuff, the floating bar seems even less useful than those second screens were. It's also worth noting that you can swipe down from the home screen to find a Google-powered on-device search bar. This might not sound like a big deal, but it lets you quickly find what you're looking for by searching directly inside the apps you've installed. Google technically announced this feature last year, but damn is it useful. I know what some of you are thinking. So far, this is only a V series phone in name. Not quite. LG has been using its V series phones to improve on its camera, video, and audio chops, and that's all true here too. So far, the V30's dual camera has been an excellent performer. Unlike the G6, the V30 pairs a 16 megapixel main camera with an f1.6 aperture with a 13 megapixel wide-angle camera for when you want to capture more of the action in front of you. I've always preferred these kinds of dual cameras because they're way more flexible in the field, and snapping photos with different perspectives without having to move is always a lot of fun. More importantly, these early test photos have come out looking great. Colors seem spot on, and there's a lot of detail to keep pixel peepers happy. Even so, the V30 suffers from a lot of hazy, soft edges and low light. It actually seems to have a little more trouble than the Galaxy S8s in this regard, but hopefully the consumer-ready model is better. It's also very good for video, especially if you're a vlogger or a YouTuber or someone who just wants to try shooting serious footage with a smartphone. If I've just described you, you'll probably want to stay in the manual mode, which gives you full control over your footage. You have the options to do the usual stuff like tweak your shutter speed and exposure and ISO and more, but you can also set your frame rate and save your footage in LG's Cinelog format, just in case you want to go back and do some color grading once you get the files off your phone. LG has been trying to build phones that cinematographers would love for a while now, and honestly, the company finally seems to be getting there. For non-auteurs like me, LG's CineShot mode packs a handful of features that kind of approximate high-end work without, too much of the work. Applying color filters to your footage can help capture the look you're going for with no trouble at all, and I really dig its point zoom feature. See, you can tap anywhere on the screen to lock your focus and zoom in and out, even when the subject is off in a corner. I'm going to keep testing the V30's chops as a video camera, but even in its unfinished state, the V30 seems like an excellent option for content creators and serious shooters. Meanwhile, plugging in a pair of headphones allows you to use the built-in hi-fi DAC. You know, the one the US version of the G6 didn't get. Broadly speaking, it's meant to improve the quality of your music, and so far it's made a notable, if not overwhelming, difference. I've thrown a few lossless FLAC files onto the V30, and they all benefit from a little more depth. They sound a little brighter and more spacious than before. You can tweak how much of an impact the DAC has too with some handy presets, and honestly, it's kind of worth it. If it sounds like I'm excited for the V30, well, you're right. This easily feels like the best phone LG has made in a long time. There are compromises, sure, but LG seems to have gotten a lot right and squeezed it all into a beautiful looking package too. Stay tuned for a full V30 review and keep an eye out for what we're going to try and do with that camera too.